Well, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Okay. Jeremy Lin fans and conservative new media viewers around the world, we're here to talk about Oklahoma City's 120-91 beatdown of the Houston Rockets in Game 1 of the 2013 Western Conference Playoffs first-round series between the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The series is now 1-0 for Oklahoma City. The format of the series is a best of 7, which means that the team that gets to 4 victories first wins the series. Now, Houston began this game with the bigger lineup, meaning Greg Smith playing at the power forward spot, which is good. I thought that would probably be the best lineup for the playoffs. And Oklahoma City had everybody healthy as well. They played their normal starting rotation of Russell Westbrook, Cephalosha, shooting guard, Kevin Durant, Serge Ibaka, and Kendrick Perkins at the starting center. Now, this was the first career playoff game for J-Lin. If you'll recall, Jeremy helped the Knicks make the playoffs last year, but because he hurt his knee, he never got to actually play. So this was the first time he was in a postseason game. And it was the first playoff game for head coach Kevin McHale. So a lot of youth on this team, a lot of inexperience in terms of playoffs. And so you can't really be surprised at this result. This is a number 1 seed playing a number 8 seed. And you're going to get stuff like this. I was actually really happy with how the team played through the second quarter until at the very end of the second quarter when Oklahoma City went on that run. And Patrick Beverley was great in this game, really played well. And I thought that McHale did a pretty good job in this game. He actually did better than I thought he was going to do. I thought that he was really going to go back to some bad habits, but he didn't. Most of the times when he took Jeremy out of this game, it was because Jeremy was in foul trouble. And I think McHale wanted to play Jeremy a lot in this game, but he had to take him out at certain spots. And I'll talk more about that in a second. Okay, the high level for Jeremy is he finished with 4 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists in 32 minutes of playing time. He was 1 of 7 shooting from the field, including 0 of 4 from three-point range. He was 2 of 2 from the free throw line. He had 2 steals, no block shots, 4 turnovers, 5 personal fouls. His plus-minus was minus 23, and his efficiency number was 3. Now, Jeremy was totally outplayed by Russell Westbrook. Westbrook had 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists. And Westbrook's efficiency number was 27. So basically, Russell Westbrook had 9 times the amount of efficiency units than Jeremy did. And I'm going to be honest with you. Jeremy was a big reason why the Rockets weren't able to stay in this game. And that's okay. That's all right. My saying that isn't going to demean how good of a player Jeremy is or what his future is going to be. So I said we can't be afraid to criticize Jeremy. It can't be a thing of walking on eggshells. That's why I said in the previous video, this isn't the Leave Jeremy Alone channel. That's not good for a player's development. If you're afraid to criticize a player, then you're basically you're sheltering the player from reality. And that stunts the player's growth. So when the player does poorly, you need to say that, because that's how the player is going to grow. And that's important. I mean, that's important to understand. Now, there's a whole bunch of things in this game regarding Jeremy, and I'll go through all of them. But I'm actually happy about this game. And if you've watched these videos enough, you probably know why that is already. I know a lot of people are going to be upset. They're going to be depressed. They're going to be, you know, all of the negativity is going to come up now. And all the frustration. I think that this game was a clear example of where it's basically impossible to blame McHale or blame Harden, which means that the way that Jeremy played was on him. And so for the people that want to defend Jeremy and sometimes do so by blaming others, tonight's a very difficult situation to do that in. And that's good, because it puts the focus on Jeremy and what Jeremy needs to do. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. But for people that might have an unrealistic outlook about Jeremy and where his skill level is and where he ranks as a player in the NBA today, tonight's going to be a very difficult loss because there's kind of nowhere to hide, so to speak. But as I'm saying, that's a good thing for Jeremy Lin, because it's going to make him better in the long run. Look, tonight's game reminded me of the game against Miami last year when Jeremy was with the Knicks. And Miami went out of their way to make Jeremy look bad. Now, Oklahoma City didn't do that tonight. They weren't trying to focus on Jeremy to make him look bad. But he didn't look that good. So the result was the same. And this is expected for a player just playing his first playoff game. You expect this, that you're going to struggle. And it's good because you're getting it out of the way. Right? Now Jeremy knows what it's like. Now he's played his first playoff game. Now he's struggled in his first playoff game. Okay. Now we can move on from there. So that's a benefit of tonight. It happened. The world's still spinning around on its axis, and Jeremy Lin's still a tremendously talented NBA player who had a struggle in his first playoff game. Great. I can tell you a whole bunch of players that have struggled in their first playoff games that became great players. And so, again, I'm excited about this because it needed to be over and done with, and it is now. It's in the past now. And that's the main thing I took out of this game. There's something that's happened with Jeremy. Because of his Asian American heritage, because of his uniqueness. And I know that C. Chang mentioned this in a comment in, I believe, the Jeremy Lin #1 YouTube fan channel video. And it was a great comment. And I think, C. Chang, you got it completely correct. The reason why, in my opinion, the reason why there's so much focus on Jeremy and a kind of a desire to protect Jeremy from people that are fans of his, particularly a lot of them, I think, in the Asian American community, is because he's the only guy, right? if there were 20 other players of Asian American heritage in the NBA, well, there wouldn't be a need to defend them all because it's not a rare occurrence. But because Jeremy's the only guy, people want to go defend him completely. And sometimes defend him in a way that goes to what I was saying earlier, which is you can shelter the player from reality. And that's not a good thing. And that's part of what I was trying to say in the last video. We don't criticize Jeremy because, and I'm not talking about just me, anybody. Look, there are people that want to criticize Jeremy because they don't want him to succeed. But we're not in that group. I'm not in that group, and other Jeremy Lin fans are not in that group. We criticize Jeremy because we want to be real. We want to be realistic. And if you're not realistic, you can't improve. Because you can't improve unless you're honest about what Jeremy or somebody else is or is not good at. And that's where it comes from. And that's the reason why it's important to tell the truth about a situation. That's why I have to say, Jeremy got outplayed by Steve Blake the other night. Jeremy was a big reason, or a serious reason, why Houston couldn't hold the lead tonight in this game. I'm not doing that to kind of, rub Jeremy's fans' face in the ground. I'm doing it because that's going to help Jeremy get better if we tell the truth about what happened. It's very easy to get caught up in Jeremy's uniqueness, in his role model status, in the 60 Minutes interview, in the GQ cover, in the Linsanity documentary movie. And so if you get caught up into that stuff, then you're going to think Jeremy is a top 5 player in the NBA, but he isn't. And that's where reality has to come back into play. And I'll tell you this. And Jeremy mentioned this last year during Linsanity 1.0, or when he looked back on it. If everybody's kissing your rear end and you're on every magazine, guess what? It's pretty hard to stay grounded. It's pretty hard to say, I still need to work on X, Y, and Z. One thing I'll give somebody like a Kobe is, Kobe's famous and worldwide and, one of the biggest athletes in the world. He never loses sight of he needs to keep working. The work and the work ethic is what is the understructure beneath everything he does. And Jordan was the same way, and there's plenty of other athletes that the same way. You can never get caught up in the hype. You always have to remember how you got there. And I'm completely confident that Jeremy's the same way and that he will retain that mentality. Again, Jeremy is successful and has been successful because he's got extra fuel. He's got extra motivation, in my opinion. Jeremy, by everything that we know and everything that we've heard, including the 60 Minutes interview that was done recently, Jeremy believes he was dissed in terms of college scholarships and NBA prospects because he's Asian American. That means that's fueling him. That's driving him. And that's good. Everybody needs motivation. And like I said, with Kobe and Jordan, it's always the motivation there. And so what happened tonight, all of it is going to fuel Jeremy even more, because this was embarrassing. This was humiliating for Jeremy. And I'll get to a couple of those instances here in a second. And again, I'm not bringing those up because I dislike Jeremy. I'm bringing them up because I like Jeremy. And I know they're going to piss him off. And that's going to make him go to the gym and work harder and work longer. And that's how he's going to become the best. And that's how he's become as good as he's become, because he carried that chip on his shoulder all this time. And now he's got another chip. And that's good. That's why I'm happy about this game. That's why I'm happy. Because Jeremy got clowned. And that's going to make him mad. And that's going to make him work harder. And that's why I've said before in these videos. You must experience failure to achieve true success. Because it's when you know you can fail, that's when you work harder to avoid failure. If any of you guys have ever seen the movie Cinderella Man, it's about the boxer, and Russell Crowe's in that movie. The guy was kind of, I think it's Jim Jeffries, was a heavyweight boxing champion. So it's based on a real person. He was kind of, his career was up and down, and he really hadn't become anything. And then he was in his family, his wife and his kids were in the Great Depression in the United States. In the late 1920s, early 1930s. And he had no money. Family didn't have any food. And they couldn't pay the electric bills and stuff. And so it could have gone one of two ways. It could have cracked and broken and just, faded into nothingness. Or it could steal his will. And he could say, you know what, that's never going to happen again. And I'm going to use this. And now when I go into the ring to fight, I'm going to be unbeatable. Because I'm fighting for a reason. And these other guys I'm fighting aren't fighting for a reason. And that's what I think is going to happen with Jeremy. He already has the one aspect, the chip on his shoulder. And it's going to get stronger. I think it's going to get stronger. And again, that's why I'm happy about this. What the guy at Cinderella Man went through made him unbeatable. And I think what Jeremy's going through with this type of thing tonight is going to make him unbeatable. So I'm happy about it. And again, that requires a long-term focus versus immediate instant gratification. Sure, it'd be great if we're all throwing a party tonight and woo and all that. But it's not about that. It's about lasting success. And so what happened tonight is better for Jeremy Lin's long-term success than if Houston won tonight. So I'm thrilled about that, even though tonight sucked in itself. The game itself wasn't that good, and Jeremy didn't play that well. What's going to happen? Look, there are a number of different bad moments in this game, right? Jeremy had that little turnover bundle late in the second quarter, 2 turnovers in a very short period of time. And then early in the third quarter, I believe, he had that turnover on the fast break where I think he had just gotten a steal. And he went down the other end and he tried to throw it up a little kind of lazy alley-oop to Chandler, which Oklahoma City intercepted it. And then they went down and scored. And McHale took a timeout, and you could see him was all over Jeremy, yelling at him. And Jeremy knew it. Now, again, I know a lot of people, the Lynn fans are going to be mad about that. It wasn't fair. No, it was very fair. And that's what I'm trying to say. Don't shelter Jeremy. He needs to go through this. And it's going to help him. The whole damn world saw that, right? Saw McHale bitching at Jeremy. Good. Because I can assure you, Jeremy doesn't want that to happen again. And he'll work to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's good. That's a good thing. The other thing that happened in this game that was particularly embarrassing for Jeremy was that Derek Fisher, I think it was in the third quarter. Yeah. First, he hit a three-pointer. He was wide open. Jeremy was too late on getting back to help on him because Jeremy had drifted away from Fisher to help out on defense. And again, you can do that with certain guys and you can't do it with other guys. You can't do that with Derek Fisher. And Jeremy paid for it. And it was the second time in the game that he paid for that. But right after that, with, 9 minutes or something left in the third quarter, then Derek Fisher went right up in Jeremy's face and hit a three-pointer right over him on purpose. And they showed Oklahoma City's bench, and they're all happy, and they're slapping hands, and yay, we clowned Jeremy Lin. We embarrassed him. We humiliated him. Woo-hoo! All right. Crowd loves and everybody's happy. And let me tell you something. That moment is going to be seared into Jeremy's brain, like saving something onto a CD with a laser. Same with the McHale yell. And what that means is Jeremy doesn't ever want that to happen again, ever. And that's good. And this is the way competitors are. In any sport, in any endeavor. If you're a great student, maybe you're in a debate club or something. Say you go to a debate against your biggest rival and you get humiliated, destroyed. Well, you're never going to want that to happen again. Again, you're either going to break down and fall apart, or you're going to get stronger. And you're going to make sure that never happens again. The next time you see your competitor and your big rival, you're going to crush them. And that's what I think Jeremy Lin's all about. In fact, I know that's what he's about. You don't make the NBA. You don't get into Harvard unless you're very competitive and very resilient, particularly coming from what Jeremy's coming from and his background. He's not 6'10". He didn't have any D1 scholarships, etc. That's why Jeremy's special. And I want him to be in a uncontrolled competitive environment. Meaning, I don't want to coddle him. I don't want to baby him, which is part of what I was saying in the last video. Because I believe if you put Jeremy in with 10 other people, Jeremy's going to win. And events like tonight and Derek Fisher hitting a three in his face is going to help Jeremy win quicker, and it's going to help him win more completely. And so I'm glad that this happened. And again, this is why I have the mentality that I do about how we do coverage. I don't believe in coddling people. I don't believe in sheltering people. Let the chips fall where they are and let that person succeed. And that's what Jeremy's all about. And he's going to do it. So the haters are going to be out tonight. They're going to be celebrating. They're going to be, you know what? They're going to make a GIF out of the Derek Fisher three. Maybe they'll make a GIF of McHale yelling at J-Lin. Good. Embrace that. Embrace the hate. That's how you win. That's how you succeed. Don't run away from it. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it and beat it. As I said, that's what Jordan was about. That's what Kobe's about. That's what winning is about and what winners are about. yeah, just finally in terms of stuff before the quarter by quarter. Look, as you can tell, I'm not freaked out by this at all. I'm happy about it because it's going to be better in the long term. As I said, this is how I approach things. This is how I approach things in analysis and the way I approach things in analyzing Jeremy. This is the first game of a playoff career that should be very long and be filled with, tens of games, if not hundreds of games. And so he had a rough start. It's like a guy going out on his first date. You make a whole bunch of mistakes. You don't know what you're doing. Fine. Good. Get it out of the way. And then you can move on. And so that's what this is. Now Jeremy can move on. And now the team can move on. So that's what's up. That's what this was. And it's going to get better from here. I think you've seen about the worst you're ever going to see of Jeremy Lin in the playoffs. And that's good. And we can move forward now. Okay. Getting the quarter by quarter. Middle of the first, Jeremy made a drive to the basket coming from the right-hand side of the lane. And he did the move. He stopped, did a little pump fake, and he drew the foul, got 2 free throws, and he hit both of them. Those are the only 2 free throws of the game for Jeremy. And again, he's going to need to get better at that. If you're in a game like tonight where Jeremy's jump shot it wasn't hitting, it wasn't falling. If you're going to score, you've got to find other ways to score. And the main other way to score is to get free throws and to get, drive to the basket. So Jeremy didn't get a chance to do that a lot tonight, and it didn't work out for him. So he only got those 2 free throws, and that was it. Late in the first, Jeremy had a real nice play with Greg Smith. It's a pick and roll, high pick and roll, like top of the key. Greg Smith came up, set the pick, rolled right to the basket. Jeremy just, rifled a pass to him. Big dunk. We've seen that a million different times. And as we said before, Jeremy and Greg Smith have great chemistry together. And Greg Smith's a good finisher. He's a much better finisher than Omarius. And that was just an excellent play. I made a note late in the first that Jeremy needs to continue to work on his one-on-one offensive moves. And we've said that before. It's just something he has to keep working at. Again, we don't expect all this to be perfect yet. This is Jeremy's first full year as a starter. This is Jeremy's first playoff game. These things are going to take years. And so we're just at the beginning of that process. So it'll get better and better. Jeremy came out of the game for Patrick Beverley with 2 minutes and 58 seconds left in the first quarter. At that point, Houston was trailing 17-8, and this was just normal rest. McHale likes to take him out near the end of the first quarter. But McHale put him back in the game in the first quarter with 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Jeremy came in for Chandler, and so what we're seeing then was the Beverly, Lin, and Harden small ball lineup. Again, I give credit to McHale here. In a normal situation, Jeremy wouldn't have come back in the first quarter. But instead of screwing up, McHale actually did better by trying to make something happen there. And again, so give him credit for that. Give him credit for that. Okay, Jeremy began second quarter on the floor with Patrick Beverley and Bieber Parsons. So Jeremy was playing the shooting guard position here now, and Patrick was playing the point guard. Early in the second quarter, Jeremy drew a charge against Kevin Martin. Very nice play. Kevin Martin drove to the basket. Jeremy just held his position, and boom, basically Kevin Martin ran over him. And at this point in the game, early in the second, the game was almost tied up. And so Houston was making a comeback here. And it really looked like this might be a good game. Maybe Houston could actually compete with Oklahoma City on their own floor and maybe even, steal a game and win this game. So things look good early in the second and middle of the second and even going into late in the second. And Jeremy was a part of that. Middle of the second, Jeremy was it was in transition, so he had the ball in his hand, and he was leading the fast break, and he got down into the lane, and then he passed the ball out to Patrick Beverley, who was set up at the three-point line at about 45 degrees right of the top of the key. And Beverley hit the shot to make the score 38-38 with 6 minutes and 3 seconds left in the first half. And look, this was working. One thing that you can do against the Thunder, if you're on offense, is you can play small ball against them. Meaning you can use shorter players because the Thunder are pretty big. Kendrick Perkins and Ibaka, so they're a little bit slow. They're a little bit bulky. And this is what the Miami Heat have done against the Oklahoma City Thunder the last couple years. They go to the small lineup, and Oklahoma City can't handle it. And so, again, I give credit to the coaching staff for Houston for doing it, and it was working. And it worked really well. One of the things, I've talked about this before in other games. One of the things that's so good about having Patrick Beverley on the court at the same time that Jeremy is because it lets Jeremy rest more. He doesn't have to bring up the ball on offense, and he doesn't have to play super intense, in-your-face defense when the Rockets are on defense. So if you're going to play Jeremy a bunch of minutes, which I think Mikal wanted to do tonight, then having Patrick on the court at the same time really helps with that. And Jeremy has to spend a lot less energy, but you still get the benefits of having him on the court. So it was great. And Patrick played, as I said, he played really well tonight. Really well. It was great to see that. Late in the second, Jeremy had a great play. Oklahoma City had scored on offense, and Jeremy got the ball, and he, before Oklahoma City was set on defense, Jeremy came down the right-hand side of the court, and then he did a hesitation move. It looked like he was coming fast, and then it looked like he was going to stop and not go to the basket. And Oklahoma City relaxed, and they went right to the basket and scored a layup. Great play. Great play. Again, Jeremy's getting better and better. And he's getting smarter and smarter. Soon after that play, and the score at this time was, it was like 50-45. So it was still close. Houston had lost the lead, but they were still within striking distance, so to speak. Soon after that play, Russell Westbrook he tried to steal the ball from Jeremy, and it was one of those plays where, the guy goes by you, and then you try to reach your arm around him and steal the ball on the other side of him. And, it was so clearly a foul. Basically, I think Westbrook hit him in the face, and there was no call. And after that play, Jeremy had to call a timeout, I think because, he got hit in the face. And he was kind of in a bad spot. But, I don't think the refs were terrible in this game, but, that was a play that they didn't help Jeremy on. That was for sure. Now, late in the second quarter, This is right after that little play where Jeremy got hit in the face and there was no foul called on Westbrook. Then Jeremy had the little turnover bundle. The first one came, Jeremy was along the right-hand baseline, and he had been trapped, like he had been cut off by, I believe, Kendrick Perkins. And I think, so it was Kendrick Perkins and Russell Westbrook basically kind of guarding Jeremy. And he just made a bad pass. He tried to throw the ball across the court to, I don't remember who it was. Might have been Delfino or Bieber. And it just, it was just a bad play. And right after that, Oklahoma City scored. And so now it was 54-45. And so the Rockets, again, now the lead was getting away from them. This had been a tied game, and now it's like, okay, Oklahoma City's going on this big run to end the quarter. After that play, McHale called a 20-second timeout just to kind of regroup the team. But this time, he didn't yell at Jeremy. I didn't see anything. So again, give credit to McHale. He didn't freak out on Jeremy then. It's just like, okay, all right, cool, all right. After the timeout, Jeremy was double teamed at the half court, the mid court line, basically. I think he had brought the ball up or had gotten the ball passed to him from whoever was bringing up, maybe Patrick, and they trapped him with a good trap, and Jeremy had another turnover, which resulted in an Oklahoma City dunk. So again, here was a little dreaded turnover bundle. And Oklahoma City was now really making a run to go up at halftime big. And Oklahoma City made a decision that we're gonna double team Jeremy now. We're gonna press him hard, and it was working. And so this put up Oklahoma City by 13 points, and now it's 58-45 late in the second. But again, that was struggling time for him, but I didn't see McHale freak out, didn't see anything. It was just, Oklahoma City's great, and they're really good on defense. You expect them to do things like this. Jeremy played the entire second quarter, and I made a note then, and I think I said it in the comments, or people that were talking in the comments during the game. Jeremy's got to play better in the second half, and he needs to learn from the mistakes that he made here in the end of the second quarter. And I also made a note that Jeremy didn't look that fast tonight. And I've said this before. When everybody else is playing fast, then Jeremy's not as fast, relatively, because he always plays fast. But, it could have been anything. It just, Oklahoma City is extremely athletic. And so they'll make you look less athletic, even if nothing's changed about your own athleticism. It's just, they're so athletic, you look less so. Okay, Jeremy began the third quarter out on the court, and this is where the play came. This is the play where Jeremy stole the ball, and then on the fast break, he tried to throw an alley-oop to Bieber, and it just wasn't that good. And it was early in the third. I don't have the exact time down on it, but it obviously was within the first few minutes. And Oklahoma City intercepted the alley-oop, and they went down and scored. And that put them up by 16, 65-49. Now, McHale took the timeout, and you could see him yelling at Jeremy. Kind of like, what are you doing? This type of thing. He was mad. And Jeremy knew it. Jeremy knew he messed up. So give him credit, You have to accept that. You have to be accountable for what you do. Jeremy is a flashy player, and he does make great passes, and he does make difficult passes. But when you're in important games and important moments in those games, you can't do that unless you are certain that you can complete the pass. There's only a few people in the history of the NBA that can get away with playing really flashy in playoff games. People like Magic Johnson. Magic can make a dramatic pass in a playoff game in a big moment. Well, Jeremy's not at that point yet. And so if you're not at that point, don't make that pass. You can't make that pass. And that's, like I said, I expect him to make that mistake. And that's why it's good he made the mistake, because now he won't make the mistake the next time. So again, I don't care about Mikhail yelling at him or, it looked bad. That doesn't mean anything. It should look bad. It was a stupid play. And don't do that play again. And Jeremy, believe me, he won't do that again. So it's, all's well that ends well. And that's why it's good to have these struggles, because then you get beyond them. Soon after that play, Jeremy drove the lane. And Jeremy was mad now. He was mad because he knew he messed up. And I'm sure he was mad that Mikhail yelled at him. And that's good. That's what I'm saying. This is the whole reason why I'm happy. I want Jeremy mad. Because when he's mad, he's going to play better and he's going to work harder to be better. And so I welcome that. I welcome the struggles, because it's going to make him a better player in the long run. Not in the short run, but in the long run. So Jeremy was upset. And he had a really nice play where, he drove down the middle of the lane and he did, a little wrap around pass to Greg Smith, who went up for a dunk, but he got fouled. But it was a really nice play. And that was a much higher percentage play than the alley-oop attempt to Bieber. And that's, again, when you're playing a great defense and you're playing in a big spot, make a simple play. Don't make it too complicated. And Jeremy will learn that. I said, I'm not, Jeremy is an inexperienced player. He's going to make these mistakes. Just like Mikhail's going to make mistakes as a coach, and Harden's going to make mistakes with ISOs and all this stuff. We expect this. That's why I think it's difficult to get too upset about it, because it's kind of, this is the way it's going to be. This is a young team. When Jeremy is not focused, that's when he gets, what I say, loosey-goosey. That's when he gets too cavalier with his playing. Trying to make passes he can't make, other stuff. You can't do that. You can't do that. And that's where Mikhail, whatever, will kind of, rein him in and say, can't do that in the playoffs. Maybe you can do that against Sacramento, in game number 70, 9, and they don't care anymore. But you can't do that against the Thunder in the playoffs, because the play won't work. And that's what Jeremy's learning. And that's what he's going to, part of what he's going to learn from tonight's game. Also, early in the third, Jeremy had a nice little pass to Omer in the lane. That Omer kind of hit a little hook shot off of the glass. He threw it up, hit the backboard, and it went in. I made a note here. It says, Jeremy is waking up, but it might be too late. And so I'm saying, we know Mr. Fourth Quarter, Mr. Clutch. Well, sometimes it needs to be Mr. Second Quarter, and you never get to the clutch because you got blown out far before the clutch. And that's something Jeremy has to keep learning. And he will learn it. So I said, again, this isn't, bad Jeremy, bad Jeremy, you're punishing your dog for doing something. No, this is part of the learning process. This is part of the learning process. And it would be rare if it didn't happen like this. So this is normal. This is what you expect to see happen. Now, Jeremy was coming down on a break. And he was leading the break, meaning he had the ball in his hand. And James Harden was on the left-hand side, and Bieber was on the right-hand side. And Jeremy made a pass to James Harden that didn't put James Harden in a good spot. Basically, James Harden got a charge, and it wasn't a pass Jeremy should have made because Harden wasn't in a good position to be able to do anything with it. And I think Jeremy knew that. And if you see right after that play, Jeremy was talking to Chandler. I think he was upset with the positioning Chandler had on the break. In other words, basically what it looked like Jeremy was doing was saying, look, you, Bieber, set me up to make a bad pass because you were in the wrong position. And if you had been in the right position, I would have given you the ball instead. And I've told you guys before, there's a protocol. There's a way of running a fast break. Obviously it changes in every situation, but there are certain things. And so, if those things aren't followed well, the guys are going to get upset. And so I don't have any problem with Jeremy getting mad there. I mean, I don't know what Chandler did or didn't do, but Jeremy felt like something didn't happen properly. Good. Just to say, I have no problem with Mikhail yelling at Jeremy. I have no problem with Jeremy yelling at Chandler. That's how you work through things. That's how you work through things. And that's the way it needs to happen. Right after that, too, again, and Jeremy was still upset. He was upset from everything that was happening in this quarter. He was upset about Mikhail yelling at him. He was upset about, Chandler. And he started to play better. He got another steal. He was starting to play better defense because his head was more focused in the game now. And he stole the ball and got the ball to James Harden, who got an and one layup. And one just means you score the ball and you're fouled. It's called an and one because whenever you are fouled and you hit the basket, then you get one free throw. So and one means 2 points or 3 points if you shoot a three-pointer and one free throw. And that just is shortened to and one. So like I said, Jeremy was demonstrating here that he's a better player when he's properly edgy, when he's mad, when he's focused, when he's challenged. And we know this about him. And look, most players are like this. So as I said, looking at, again, at the overall of the game, I'm happy because the whole game's going to piss Jeremy off. And that means he's going to play better in the other games. So, good. About midway through the quarter, I just made a note. It said, now Jeremy's starting to play calmer on offense, meaning he's not trying to do any more flashy plays. And that's good. As I said, it's like the famous experiments with the psychologist Pavlov and the dogs, He conditioned the dogs and, to like whenever he'd feed them, he'd ring bells or whatever. And so eventually just ring a bell and the dogs would start to salivate because, they expected they were going to get food. So with Jeremy and with any player, if things go poorly, then you're going to change your habits, your conditioning, and your mentality about how to do stuff is going to change. That's why failure is important as well as success, because then you adjust to that. I actually was thinking here now that, if Houston is able to play a disciplined game and Jeremy's able to stay focused for the whole game, they can compete with Oklahoma City. That's the thing. That was the one thing that was so great about this game, was that, again, through late in the second quarter, Houston was doing great in this game. Now, it's not going to be easy for that to happen. And I'm not saying it will happen, but it was good to see that, because before the last game between these two teams in the regular season, the third game, that Houston had the comeback, it looked like Houston couldn't compete with this team, but now they can compete. That's a big mental step. And so I think the team and Jeremy, when they look back at this game, are going to say, you know what? We had a chance to win that game. Even though we lost by 30 points or whatever, we could have won this game. That's good. That's another good thing that happened from tonight. Very important thing. Again, Oklahoma City is one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league. So if you can compete with them, you can pretty much compete with anybody. And that says a lot about this team, a lot about Houston. Okay, Patrick Beverley came in for Jeremy with 5 minutes and 22 seconds left in the third quarter. And the reason why he came in was because Jeremy had picked up his 4th personal foul. Remember, if you get 6 personal fouls, you're out of the game. So you're basically in a circumstance here now where there's almost 18 minutes left in the game and Jeremy only has 1 foul left. So McHale took him out of the game, I think, not to sit him, not to punish him, but because he had too many fouls. And I do believe that if Jeremy did not have foul trouble, that he probably would have played the whole third quarter, just like he played the whole second quarter. So we talked about this in the number 1 Lin fan channel video. How is McHale doing overall? And what McHale showed in this game, and I'm surprised by this, he was going back to the game 77 through game 79 rotation with Jeremy, meaning playing him heavy minutes. And that's what we want to see. I said, that's why you can't. Those last few games at the end of the regular season are a different thing. It's about where is McHale's head at most of the time. Not every single time, but most of the time. And what I saw tonight was that McHale was making better decisions with Jeremy. He wanted to play him more. It's just he wasn't able to do that because of the foul trouble. Soon after Jeremy went out, Patrick Beverley had a nice couple plays, and he was really starting to bother Russell Westbrook's dribble. I mean, he got a couple, deflections or near steals. And so I said, look, Patrick, if Patrick's doing that against the point guard, then Jeremy doesn't have to do it, which means Jeremy has more energy to score, etc. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. I think we will see more and more of those two, of Jeremy and Patrick, on the court at the same time. And that's a very promising thing for the future. At the end of the third quarter, Oklahoma City was up by 23 points, and basically the game was over. I mean, it was essentially over. And Jeremy did start in the fourth quarter. He was playing with Patrick Beverley. He very quickly in the fourth quarter, he got his 5th personal foul. And then Derek Fisher got another, got the 3-pointer where Jeremy left him alone. Wasn't close enough to him as he should have been. And then early in the fourth quarter, Derek Fisher hit the 3-pointer in Jeremy's face, and yay, Oklahoma City bench celebration, hater celebration worldwide. GIFs are being made, videos are being put onto YouTube, whatever. Good. So embrace that. Because it's fuel. It's rocket fuel. If you follow Michael Jordan's career, or if you know much about it, and I watched all of Jordan's career, including in college, what happened for Jordan, particularly later in his career, after he started winning titles and stuff, he started looking for motivation anywhere he could find it. He would make things up. He would make up stuff people supposedly said about him. Why? Just because he wanted something to get mad about. He needed that. That's how you keep an edge. Well, for Jeremy, he doesn't have to make this up. He can go anywhere on the internet now and see a GIF of Derek Fisher hitting a three-pointer in his face and Oklahoma City's bench celebrating. Believe me, the haters, I'm sure that there's already a copy of this up at Clutch Fans as I make this video. Good. That's what I'm saying. I'm not afraid of that. I like that because it's going to make Jeremy mad. And that means Jeremy's going to work harder to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's good. That's a good thing. That's what we want. Okay, with 8 minutes and 23 seconds left in the fourth quarter, and the score was 102-71 for Oklahoma City, Aaron Brooks came in for Jeremy, and that was it. That was all that Jeremy played in this game. Instead, he still played 32 minutes in this game. And if the game was closer and he didn't have foul trouble, I'm sure he would have played more than 40 minutes. So I'm good with Mikhail tonight. He showed he was better than I thought he was going to be. And he showed that he was going to play Jeremy heavy minutes, which is what he should do. So good. All right, the summary of the game was a tough loss, but it's good for Jeremy and the team in the long run. You have to learn from failure. So this is going to fuel them. The team showed that they can play with Oklahoma City through the second quarter of this game, and it was on the road, which makes it even more impressive. Mikhail was fair to Jeremy tonight. Very fair. Jeremy just didn't have his jump shot working tonight, and that happens, as I said before. It happens to everybody. And finally, of course, this was Jeremy's first ever playoff game. So we're now into a new era. And everybody that watched Jeremy last year at the Knicks has been waiting for this because of all the smack that was talked by Knicks players and by Knicks writers. Jeremy didn't want to play in the playoffs last year. Isn't he? He could have played. Well, have fun, dudes. Yeah, you beat Boston yesterday. That's great. Jeremy doesn't need you. So have fun with Raymond Felton. And Jeremy's beginning his own playoff legacy. So great. This is, again, regardless of the outcome of this game, the progress is clear. Look at how far Jeremy's coming in a year. And now he's doing his own thing in the playoffs. He doesn't need Melo or JR or anybody. Good. Okay, it's 1:25 a.m. early Monday morning, April 22nd, here on the East Coast of the United States, which means it is currently 1:25 p.m. on Monday, April 22nd, in Taipei, Taiwan, and Shanghai, China. And I believe it is 4:25 p.m. in Brisbane and Sydney, Australia. Now, I just want to say thanks to everybody for the support and the comments in the Lynn #1 fan channel video. That was the last video. Look, I read everything. I haven't had a chance to respond to everything. I've just been extremely busy. And some of it, I don't want to respond to it. Look, I don't want to antagonize people. The point that I wanted to make in the video, I made that. So, and that was all I wanted to do. I don't need to go and say, hey, Paul, someone leaves a comment saying, Paul, you're right, and we support you, and don't listen to these people. I don't need to respond to that. Yeah, you're right, and I'm so great, and they're so dumb. I don't need to do that. I said that wasn't the point of the video, and I appreciate the support, but it's just you understand why I don't need to answer that comment. What had to be said was said. Hopefully we just move on now. I don't hold any grudges. And I only said it because I felt I needed to say it. And that's it. So, that's why I didn't leave a lot of comments in that video. That's why I took the ratings off the comments. That's why I took the ratings off the video. It's just something that had to be done in terms of making the video. And now we're back to real basketball. And so that's a good thing. But As I say all the time, I've read all of the comments. I do appreciate the support. And it's good. It's good to just, have a dialogue about Jeremy and about the channel and everything else. Okay, the next game is Game 2 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that game will take place in Oklahoma City on Wednesday, April 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States of America. And it will be shown on the TNT network. So, the game will take place early Thursday, April 25th at 7 a.m. Eastern Time in Taipei, Taiwan, and Shanghai. That's about it for this one. Like I said, your comments below, thumbs up, thumbs down. We will include the full information in the video description below the video player for game highlights, box score, and game stories. Also information so you can come and join the CNM Facebook group, which has over 2,500 members and growing all the time. I am Paul at Villarreal, the NBA expert. Thanks a lot for watching Conservative New Media. We strive to be the #1 Jeremy Lin YouTube fan channel. Again, this is what I expected. I'm happy with what happened tonight, even though it wasn't fun tonight. I'm happy because this is like planting a seed that's going to grow into an oak tree later. And this needs to happen. There's no way around it. You need to go through this type of stuff if you're Jeremy and the team so that you can get to a higher level. And I embrace that. I said, bring on the haters. Bring on the GIFs and the videos of Derek Fisher hitting a 3 in Jeremy's face. I want that because it's going to make Jeremy stronger. And so, hold your heads up high. This is good. Don't be down about this. This is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing because Jeremy Lin's a champion with a champion's mentality. And that means he's going to respond to this the way he's responded to everything else he's had to deal with in his basketball career. And that we've seen plenty of times since we've been watching him in the NBA. Great. The sooner the better. Sooner the better. And that's absolutely the way I view this. And I have no hesitation, no concerns, no nothing. I'm glad that this happened. Okay, I hope everybody is having a great day or great night wherever you are around the world when you watch this video. Take care of yourself. We will talk to you again soon.